Deadpool negative. I thought I'd do a quick scattered spoiler thoughts on the Giggle, the third chapter in the Doctor Who 60th anniversary special. I thought it was funny that my reaction video was like, "Oh, I'm not going to give hard spoilers." When literally as I was posting it, you go to the BBC's website and see hard spoilers. So I'm going to talk about a few things. I think the first thing I want to talk about is Bi-Generation, and I don't know if this is to describe to establish my Doctor Who credentials. As I explained in my last video, in other previous videos, I prefer Stephen Moffat's years meant more to me than Russell T Davies. I think the best way to, once again, the best way to describe my feelings about the two men is Davies could never write an episode as good as Listen, but Davies could never write an episode as awful as Let's Kill Hitler. Davies is really concerned, I think possibly too concerned, with the marketability of the property at this point. And Bi-Generation is part of that because he's well aware David Tennant doesn't just have a following because of Doctor Who. He has a following because of Broadchurch and because of Good Omens. And it's funny because I think David Tennant's a wonderful actor. I just find him the least interesting when he's playing Doctor Who. I think Good Omens, The Escape Artist, underrated show. Even this, there's a pilot you can kind of find the pilot he did called Rex is Not Your Lawyer. It was a dumb idea. Basically, the premise was that his character had an anxiety attack in the courtroom and can't be in the courtroom or he'll have another anxiety attack. So he basically trains clients to represent themselves, which is legal, but it's not really a thing. But the funny thing is, you watch the pilot and you're like, if this had just been Tennant as this lawyer, as just another fast talking crusading lawyer. I think Bridget Regan played his love interest, and Jerry O'Connell was the sleazebag rival. If you had those elements there, it probably would have run 5 seasons. Get David Kelly. I mean, David Kelly and David Tennant teaming up, I think would be very interesting. But anyway, so Bi-Generation, I don't have a problem with it at all as presented on the show because as following with um, Davies wants a pivot to fantasy. The show to have a pivot to fantasy, and I'm like, wasn't that way already? Doctor Who was thoughtful sci-fi, but it was never hard sci-fi. Davies wants to pivot to that. So basically, the idea of legends and myths becoming real because of slightly because of what happened in the Blue Laundry, but the toy maker comes in and says, "Oh, by the way, I made a jigsaw of your history. I put the master into a little gold tooth. I was really hoping we wouldn't hear from the master for a while, but looks like that's not the case. I thought Shashi Jawan was a great master, but he also squeezed the blood so hard out of that stone and in the power of the Doctor. I just do not want to see the character anymore." Anyway, getting off track. But he says specifically he made a jigsaw of your history. So if you don't like the Timeless Child, and who does? The thing about the Timeless Child is, again, it asks a question it's basically, I always say it's the sequel to Watchmen question. That's just something nobody's going to be able to coherently answer. Where did the Doctor come from? Well, a race of uber gods now, if it's not the Gallifreyans. So if you don't like the Timeless Child, you can just say, oh, the Jigsaw of the history is something the toy maker did. If you do like the Timeless Child, then the thing is, I don't really care about the Timeless Child because it doesn't affect because it doesn't really seem to affect this show to me. Does it ruin it? I mean, it ruins certain things. I mean, it certainly wrecks Listen a little bit, and that's probably one of the best Doctor Who episodes ever written. It kind of messes with the ending of Robot of Sherwood because I think Robin Hood's encapsulation of the Doctor's motivations is all that the viewer really needs. But you know, I put the Timeless Child blame of the Timeless Child on two things: Chris Chibnall's incompetence and desire to jolt the audience without actually following through. And yes. Anyway, but still off track. Bi-Generationn, there was nothing in the rules that said it didn't happen, couldn't happen. Now there's something in the rules that does, because the toy maker, by making a jigsaw of the Doctor's history, is also making myths real. The 15th Doctor says outright, "This was a myth. We all thought this was a myth. Maybe it's real." And there's nothing in the rules that said Bi-Generationn couldn't happen. And the Doctor, and it is something different. It is a change for the 60th anniversary. The 50th anniversary had the return of Gallifrey, and one of the more clever things about Doctor Who, what Moffat did about the return of Gallifrey, is when Doctor finally went back to Gallifrey, he went there, told them all kind of to get bent, and then left. Thought that was pretty funny. Um, Essentially that's what he did. I saw the episodes. I know what happened. And it is an emotional scene. And again, Shooty Gatwa comes in and like I said, it's a weird comparison. It's like Leo McCurd in the Prisoner finale. It's like, can we follow this guy now? Can we follow this guy? This guy's more interesting than the actual nominal lead. And I think the idea of the 15th Doctor telling the 14th Doctor, this is happening because you're burnt out. This is happening because everything's weighing on you. It is okay to stop and rest. It is okay to just take it easy for a while. You do not have to keep running. That's my job now. I'm going to run. Of course, the Doctor's not running from anything because Gallifrey's gone with us. And I think the way, it kind of comes down, the way Tennant looks really, I mean, people complained like Tennant looks really haggard in some of the episodes, and I'm glad to see that was part of the point, that he was, and now he gets his own TARDIS, which is, again, like, I know people generally prefer Davies to Moffat, but Moffat would at least try a little hard to explain all this. He'd probably disappear up himself trying to figure it out, but he would have tried. The 15th Doctor saying, "Well, I have a wish too," and boom, he had another TARDIS. That's just weird. But it's the 60th anniversary. Like, it's weird because, like, again, the endorphins were working. I was getting an emotional charge out of it. But as I think about it, as I'm talking about it, it's like, man, there got to be a stronger way to do this. On the other hand, it is what it like. On the other hand, it's like, well, it's just like, they establish the rules of the toy maker. And let me quick tangent about the toy maker. I said this last week, but I want to say it again. It's fascinatingly create a character that's as flamboyant as, but also threatening in a different way, because the master's not here to humiliate the toy maker's not here to humiliate the Doctor. He's here to play a game, and play a game consistently, and like all he knows is winning and losing. And I notice as certain individuals, I listen to people who, let's just say, deviate, are far angrier about this than I am. And I saw one video guy with a guy saying, "Well, Russell T Davies, he's always attacking the fans. He's always like," and you can make that argument, but like his basic point, and if you say the basic point of everyone being angry at each other, everybody wanting to win, everybody, and the toy maker is the apotheosis of that. Everybody wants to win. Winning and losing is all anybody wants anymore. I don't think Davies intended it. I mean, you can say Davies is like that. You can say Davies is arrogant, but he can't. I can't really say he's wrong. Can you really say he's wrong? No, you can't. It was funny. There was another video I saw by let's just say he's a former network executive who, like most of us, didn't like the Chibnall era. Thought it was really bad, and he thought it was pretty bad, and he thought. So again, but then in the middle of it, he says, "I don't know who the master is." I'm like, so you didn't watch the Chibnall era? Maybe the former network executive is a fucking liar. um. Anyway, I shouldn't have said that, but I want to keep it in because once in a while these guys need to be answered. Anyway, um, I should get back to my actual point was that after this whole Bi-Generationn thing, we have David Tennant reserved for future adventures, which I understand because the man was popular, the man is well liked, the man will do loves this character so much, loves him that he'll probably do it for free. I said once, I said after the 50th anniversary, I said like if you caught him on the right day, you could probably get David Tennant to do 3 more years of the Doctor just like that. And, the Doctor Donna relationship is fun. I'm not a huge fan of it as everyone else. Like I actually thought Martha was my favorite of the 10th Doctor's companions. No, she doesn't get a mention in the specials, but I get the Doctor Donna team up appeal. I do. But then Davies said something like kind of curious. He speculated that maybe the toy makers causing the Bi-Generationn caused every Doctor to resurrect wherever they died. And I was like, why? And then I realized this was all about marketing. This is all about like, hey, let's make it canon that every Doctor lives. Everyone goes off and has it is going off and having their adventures. And I gotta tell you something. If if this was um, a Moffat written concept and it was the 11th Doctor that gets to live and run off and have adventures with, I don't know, Clara, or I noticed, like, I noticed the toy maker kind of just fling. There was something very interesting about the way, speaking of Moffat, there's something very interesting about the way the toy maker flaunted 11 and 12, how they kind of let their companions down. I don't think it was meant to be a shot across the bow to Moffat, but in the case of Amy and Rory in particular, um, I think it was kind of saying like, well, you were the Doctor. You should have helped these people. You should have saved these people. I think that's what the toy maker was trying to say. In the case of Amy and Rory, it's utterly logical that um, Doctor can't fix that. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. But in my head canon, he eventually did. But he or she. Um, but that's not what happened. Like again, like maybe it was the 11th Doctor, and because again, the 11th Doctor is probably my favorite Doctor, even though he showed up in some of the worst episodes I've ever seen. That was the funny part. Um, he was kind of everything I wanted the Doctor to be, if that makes sense. But do I need to see him again? And under the circumstances, I don't. Under these circumstances, I really don't. That's the weird thing. Doctor Who has always been about moving on, about something new. And Davies is doing that, but at the same time, he's saying you can play with the old toys. Let's really play with the old toys. And I'm like, why do we need to do that? Like, why? Um, I don't. The whole point in 2005 when he relaunched the Doctor, it was like they cleared the decks of everything. Old villains and everything came back eventually, but the idea was to pursue new angles with the character. I think they're going to do that with Shooty Gatma. I mean, the thing about Gatma, he still looks like he's about 18 without that mustache. um, but he's very outgoing. Like I mean, again, he comes in, he jumps around, and it's just fun. I want to hang out with this guy. This guy seems cool. Let's do shit with him. And the church on Ruby Road looks like a kind of a soft remake of Rose, and in a good way, I think. the way, I mean, Rose is still one of the best episodes of any sci-fi show, just introducing the character. And like, I think he's trying very hard to move forward, but he's also very intentionally tying the show, because he's also selling a new Doctor and he's selling all the old Doctors, to be streamed on Disney Plus for a reunion movie. I mean, there is speculation that they're already writing and shooting a David Tennant project for possibly in release in 2026. I think it really depends on how well it does on Disney Plus for us to see where that goes. Man, this is going on longer than I thought, but it's just that out of all the people that what I thought would be tying themselves to the history, tying themselves, not being able to let go, it's more than a little strange that one of them turns out to be Russell T Davies. He's letting us have the 10th Doctor and saying we'll have all our doctors, but again, I'm going to repeat that. I'm going to repeat the speech. Like, times have changed and so must I. We all different people all through our lives, but that's okay. You got to keep moving just so you remember who it is you used to be. And the 15th Doctor does do that. I mean, I think one of the most moving parts of the Giggle is him saying, Sarah Jane died. Can you believe that? It's like, it's coming from such a young looking guy. It's just fascinating. It's just a great line read. I wonder if the can you believe that actually was improvised by Godwin, because it just feels, even like this guy, like Sarah Jane's gone, and like, and I got to be the doctor. I just think, like, sometimes it's the creators who have to move on, and I worry that's what's happening with Russell Davies. Anyway, thanks for listening. Hit the bell for notifications, etc. And sorry about that cheap shot at the former Nacky Bird executive. Actually, not sorry. Talk to you later.